Boris Johnson is sinking deeper and deeper into the swamp of lockdown parties at his official residence. A hastily cobbled together Brexit initiative is intended to deter his MPs from trying to oust him. So, Boris Johnson is trying to keep his MPs happy. Great Britain's scandal-ridden Prime Minister has every reason to do so. More and more details about illegal lockdown parties in Downing Street have been coming to light for weeks. Now even the police have gotten involved and are investigating whether employees at the Prime Minister's office have broken the law in at least 12 cases involving prohibited meetings and parties. Johnson is said to have been present at several of these parties. One of them is said to have taken place in his official residence, and the motto of this party was ABBA. Well, I love ABBA, but not during lockdown, with others. The population is angry. In a poll, around 2/3 of respondents were in favor of Johnson's resignation. Even 38% of Tory voters polled think Johnson should go. But he doesn't even think about it. Instead, Johnson is currently launching one maneuver after another to appease his MPs. After all, they could withdraw their trust and chase him out of the office. The government surprisingly announced last week that it would freeze broadcasting fees for the next 2 years. The far right of the Tory party in particular has long been bothered by the BBC's allegedly insufficient patriotism. And in the English Channel, the Navy is supposed to prevent refugees from crossing over to England in rubber dinghies. And at the beginning of the week, another initiative was added. Johnson announced a law that should finally spark the many alleged benefits of Brexit. The Brexit Freedom Act should actually enable the government to get outdated EU laws from the period of UK EU membership to be changed or revoked without much hassle. According to the government, this should save the country's companies £1 billion in bureaucracy costs, but reduce the regulatory burdens and unite the country and move it forward economically. If you move far away from that, you can't export to the EU anymore. Well, having regained our independence, we can now ensure that our regulations are tailored to the needs of the UK, the government said in a statement. Currently, however, this could take several years, since in many cases Parliament has to vote on the desired changes to former EU laws. In the future, ministers should be able to do this themselves with little effort. So much about democracy. So that the UK can benefit more quickly from the Brexit freedoms. Well, it's not without reason that the statement is reminiscent of the shallow rhetoric of the pro-Brexit campaigns before the 2016 EU referendum. After all, Boris Johnson was the public face of the Vote Leave campaign. There's talk of an exciting new chapter for our country, of newly won freedoms and of sovereignty. Here it is again. The proposed law will further unleash the benefits of Brexit. Further? The following is a manageable list of examples. The repeal of EU laws is intended to boost areas such as artificial intelligence and simplify the handling of data. Outdated vehicle standards are to be modernized, as are regulations for clinical trials in medicine and for medical devices. The country's economy is to be promoted by its own subsidy regime. And global Britain is set to make the most of an unprecedented opportunity to forge new alliances and strengthen our partnership around the world. And they should read the TCA again if they want to do that. The statement seems hastily thrown together. There's no concrete content. How exactly are British companies supposed to save £1 billion in red tape? Where did this number come from? Why should manufacturers of medical products and devices, of all people, want to deviate from EU standards, when these standards are now equivalent to global standards in many areas? The same applies to vehicle standards. And how does London intend to prevent Brussels from taking action when British state-backed companies threaten to steal business from European competitors? You see, I'm quite enraged by this. The announcement was received correspondingly cool in the country. The country's major business associations did not react to the announcement at all, nor did the unions. Commenting on the move, Liberal Democrat business spokeswoman Sarah Olney said, "If this is the best Boris Johnson can muster to save his job, then he's in deep trouble. Try telling the thousands of lorry drivers stuck in queues in Dover that bureaucracy is being cut. In reality, Brexit has so far massively increased the bureaucratic burden for companies that trade with customers in the EU. The smooth movement of goods between mainland Europe and the UK is a thing of the past, as the country left the single market and the customs union. Trucks are currently piling up at the border ports to the EU because additional requirements came into force at the turn of the year. British companies complain about problems in the supply chains. Many European companies have replaced British suppliers with mainland European ones. Trade between the UK and the EU has recently declined significantly. According to a survey by the British Chamber of Commerce, the BCC, 60% of the exporters surveyed are currently reporting difficulties in trading with the EU. A year ago, it was just 49%, which is bad enough. What's more, a recently signed trade deal with Australia that praises Johnson's government over the moon should see the UK economy grow by an estimated 0.01 to 0.02% over the next 15 years. It could be devastating for UK farmers, however, as lower regulated Australian farm products could flood the UK market in the future. For the time being, the Budgetary Responsibility Authority believes that Brexit will weigh even more heavily on the UK in the long term than the COVID pandemic. Authority Chief Richard Hughes told the BBC that he expected Brexit to dampen the country's potential economic growth by 4%, and that's a number we know for some time now. Meanwhile, the planned Brexit Freedom Law raises other serious questions, and not only with regard to the separation of powers between executive, legislative and judiciary. Devolution, that means the transfer of powers to the governments in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, could also be affected if the government in London were to suddenly start amending or repealing laws on its own. Scottish Culture Minister Angus Robertson complained that the London push had been made with little discussion, consultation or respect for the Scottish Parliament and government. The government in London hurriedly pushed ahead with its plans for the planned law over the weekend and only briefly and vaguely informed the state government in Edinburgh. Scotland's separatists should be pleased with the British government's hasty move and the chaos in London. Boris Johnson has always been extremely unpopular in Scotland. In some polls, the number of supporters of Scottish independence is currently increasing again. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.